A budget presentation would be nothing without talking specifically about mental health. When we talk about mental health, as you know, every year we run a shortfall in mental health. Certainly, it's even affected the Standard & Poor rating for this county. The last 2 years, we've brought down the deficit in mental health. Last year, we brought it down to about $350,000 in out-of-county placements, not including the interest that we owed the county. It looked pretty good last year. This year, we were on the same path. A couple $100,000 in deficit in mental health, still looking pretty good. However, we had an audit from the state. They actually audited us for 0203. We got the results back over the past year, and the audit has an exception of $500,000. Now, you all know the state as well as I do. We've asked the state for a repayment plan. $500,000, allow us to repay it over 3 years. The answer is no. So we've come back and we said allow us to repay it over 2 years. The answer is no. Essentially, the state will withhold $500,000 in payments from us. $500,000 out of mental health is a big hit. So how do we mitigate that? How do we keep our services going? We have approximately 80 staff in mental health over the past 2 years. We've brought down the staff, and we've done that in trying to balance the budget in mental health and still keep services open and the crisis unit. With our 80 staff and what we have, we plan on closing the crisis unit at night. We plan on doing that. We get very few calls at night in the crisis unit. We will have staff on call. We won't have 2 staff sitting in the crisis unit all night for 2 or 3 phone calls. That will save us almost $200,000 for the rest of this year, certainly close to $400,000 next year. We have a reserved bed charge. Essentially, we pay specific hospitals for psychiatric services, and we pay a bed day. And we've been monitoring our bed days, and what we've determined this year is we haven't used that many acute psychiatric bed days. So we plan on reducing those contracts. That will save us $200,000 for the next 5 months. And then we'd like to do a 36-hour work week. So we're talking mandatory time off in mental health, along with the mandatory time off that you saw on the last chart for social services. That will bring us to our $500,000 deficit. If we continue for 09-10, we'll save close to $1 million with these actions. So in closing, we are absolutely dependent on state and federal funding in the agency. Our general fund dollars are only 6% of the budget. Cutbacks at the state level, along with reduced sales tax revenue, have caused this financial crisis in the agency in this county today. Every day of inaction costs us approximately $12,000. We're working to reduce the negative impacts to the community and to the staff. Our goal is to preserve our services and our staff positions to meet the needs of the community. Thank you. Questions?
Board members? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I think we can turn the lights back on.
I just, the realignment dollars and the vehicle license fee, those would be specific to the agency rather than to social services, wouldn't they?
It's $800,000 to social services and $400 and $400 to public health and mental health.
And yet it's only social services that we're projecting layoffs for, and so I'd just like the explanation
Sure.
of why specifically.
Sure. Specifically in public health, we were able to shift some costs and shift some funding. Particularly, we started back in July with California Children's Services, knowing that we would have a shortfall there from state revenue. And so we shifted positions so that we were able to pay for positions and not have to experience any layoffs. Additionally, we were not looking at mandatory time off for public health as well. We were able to mitigate the shortfall in public health. There was also some dollars in public health that were set aside, that a trust fund that we were able to use this year, and that will make up the difference.
Thank you.
Sure.
Also, I noticed that we're looking at the supervisor to staff ratio with a goal of 1 to 10.
Right.
And do we have a number of what the ratio is currently?
We do. And actually, it is about, I believe it's about 1 to 6.43 currently. And state guidelines are 1 to 7 to 10. So if we go on the high end of that 1 to 10, we would be in line, and we're actually not that far out of line, 1 to 6.5 or 6.48.
But then I think there are some specific instances because of previous reductions in force or employees going out on leave, whatever it might be, that there might be even a greater imbalance to where we might have some supervisors that are supervising perhaps only 2 or 3 employees. And so I just wonder how, if we could be a little more real-time oriented in trying to address some of those situations.
When the agency was formed, there was a personnel study that was done, essentially looking at equity across the agency and trying to line up or align those positions across the 3 branches. That work has started, though obviously it's not completed. Some of the examples that you're giving are definitely have merit, and we are looking at those. Another point, though, to remember is sometimes what staff don't see is they see a supervisor staff ratio of 1 to 3, when in reality that supervisor is doing much more than supervising a program. They may be doing analyst-type activities, they may be working in contracts, they may be doing other activities, and those activities may not be seen by the staff. So, I agree with you. When this issue was brought to our attention, we immediately started looking at it over the past couple weeks, and we'll do what we can in a short period of time.
Thank you. And
You're welcome.
Just have 2 more, Mr. Chair. We also have some programs, it's the same program, but it's operating in Fort Bragg, it's operating in Ukiah, so we'll have a Fort Bragg program manager and a Ukiah program manager. And I wonder if there's an opportunity to maybe combine that with we do so much work, or we're capable of doing so much work online or even with video conferencing. Perhaps we could look at combining the program manager function.
We actually have done that most recently in social services with adult services and children's services, where a children's manager in Fort Bragg is now working in a supervisory capacity with adults as well. So it is an area we're looking at, trying to align those services and reduce the need or duplication of effort. I would really like to see improved technology in this county where we could do teleconferencing between Fort Bragg, Willits, and Ukiah, and where staff doesn't have to travel back and forth. I think it would make a great improvement in how we do business, and I know that GSA and County IT are working on that.
Thank you. And then also, with regard to the mental health services audit mitigation plan, reducing the reserve bed charges for the current fiscal year would save $200,000. It seems like the impact for 09-010 should be significantly greater than what's shown. So is there an explanation for that, or?
We have to have some money in reserve in those contracts for bed days. What we'll do is we'll monitor those dollars, and after the first quarter, if we find that we're really not using those bed days, then we'll go ahead and pull back on the contract. But this is an area that we have to be very careful with. Every day is different in mental health. And what we're seeing now, could easily change come July. But, the way that we're looking at our figures, this is a case where it doesn't double. It doesn't go from 200,000 to 400,000, because we have to have those contracts. And if we conservatively reduce those bed days and reduce the contracts, we'll still be able to make it up on the end of 09-10 if we need to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Supervisor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Angelo, you've referenced the consolidation of the 3 departments, social services, mental health, and public health, into the agency. And just for the benefit of the public, wouldn't it be accurate to say, because you singled out specifically a discussion about social services, but my recollection is, from being a public health employee, is that there really is more programmatic flexibility with respect to spending in mental health and public health, more so than social services. I mean, social services is much more prescribed by the